I never thought I'd find myself in a situation like this. Honestly, I thought I had the perfect life. Married to Emily for 10 years, two beautiful kids, a nice house, a job I liked. Things weren't perfect, sure, but they were stable. Or so I thought. Then everything changed during what should have been a happy, family-oriented day, our daughter's birthday party. That was supposed to be the highlight of the year, a day filled with smiles, cake, and good vibes. Instead, it turned into the day I found out my wife, Emily, had been cheating on me with my best friend, Ryan. It all started that morning. I was busy setting up balloons and decorations, making sure everything looked perfect for the party. Emily was acting a little strange, but I figured it was just her usual bitchy mood. She can be pretty bitchy when she's stressed. She was smiling at everyone, acting like she was the happiest girl alive. But I started noticing little things. She kept glancing at her phone, typing stuff quickly, then putting it down before I could see. When I asked if she needed help, she brushed it off, said she was just texting her sister about some cupcakes. That seemed normal enough, but the way she kept sneaking her phone in her purse made me suspicious. Then came the moment that flipped everything upside down. I caught sight of her screen when she thought I wasn't looking. She was messaging someone named Ryan, sending flirty emojis, and she'd even included a couple of pictures, one of her smiling in her dress and another of her biting her lip. My stomach dropped. Ryan is my best friend, the guy I've trusted for years. I never imagined he'd do something like this, especially with Emily of all people. They'd been sneaking around in secret, texting nonstop all morning and smiling at each other like they shared some secret world. I didn't confront her right then. Instead, I grabbed my phone, took screenshots of the messages, and hid them in my pocket. I needed to think, to process what I just saw. My mind was racing. How long has this been going on? Did she plan this? Was she just using the party as a cover? I kept asking myself if I'd missed the signs earlier. She'd been distant lately, snapping at me over small things, even canceling plans. Last minute, but I brushed it off, telling myself she was just stressed. Now I knew better. The party went on, but I couldn't focus. Every laugh, every cheer felt hollow. I watched Emily from a distance, her fake smile plastered on her face, her eyes darting around like she was hiding something. I wanted to confront her then and there, but I knew I had to be careful. I didn't want to blow the whole thing up in the middle of a birthday party. So I kept quiet, pretending everything was fine, waiting for the right moment to get her alone. That moment came later that night, after everyone had gone home and the house was quiet. I sat her down in the living room, my heart pounding. She looked at me with that bitchy smirk, the one that always made me feel like I was beneath her. I told her I knew about her messages, about her affair with Ryan. Her reaction was infuriating. She laughed, said I was overreacting, that I was paranoid, that Ryan was just a good friend who was helping her with some personal stuff. She spun these ridiculous lies about how innocent it all was, that I was just jealous, that I was imagining things, but I knew better. I saw the evidence, felt the betrayal in my bones. The thing is, I was furious. Not just hurt, but furious. How dare she lie like that? How dare she pretend everything was okay while she was secretly screwing around with my best friend? I couldn't believe I'd trusted her, that I'd been so blind. I started yelling, telling her I saw everything, that I knew she was a slut, and that I never wanted to see her face again if she was going to do me like this. She still tried to deny it, throwing out more lies, saying she was just lonely, that she didn't mean anything, that Ryan was just a bad influence. Inside, I felt crushed, not just because of the betrayal, but because I wondered what I'd missed all along. How many nights had she been sneaking around? How long had she been lying, smiling at me while she was messing around behind my back? The anger mixed with sadness, and honestly, I felt like I was losing my mind. I wanted to scream, to lash out, but I just sat there stunned, watching her lie her way out of it. That night, after she stormed off to her room, I stayed awake until dawn, staring at the ceiling, trying to make sense of what I'd uncovered. My world had shattered in that one day, and I knew everything I thought I knew about my marriage was a lie. I didn't sleep. I didn't eat. All I could think about was how I was going to get through this, how I was going to deal with the betrayal of someone I loved and trusted so much. Now I'm left with this huge hole inside me, and I don't know whether I should forgive, confront again, or just walk away. Honestly, I'm leaning toward revenge, but I'm not sure how to start. That's where I am now, trying to figure out what comes next. After that night, everything changed. I couldn't look at Emily the same way. Her fake smiles, her bitchy attitude, her lies, they all felt like a personal attack on my sanity. I started noticing more signs of her sneaking around. Her disappearing into the bathroom for long stretches, deleting messages on her phone, and being overly defensive whenever I asked where she was or who she was talking to. It was like she was trying to hide her guilt even more. I felt sick just thinking about her lying to me, smiling in my face while she was sleeping around with Ryan, my supposed best friend. The worst part was the feeling of betrayal. Ryan, my best friend, the guy I trusted with everything. We'd shared beers, secrets, late-night talks about life. I never thought he'd be capable of this. And Emily, my wife, she knew how much Ryan meant to me. They'd been sneaking behind my back, texting late into the night. Even during family dinners, she'd be secretly messaging him under the table. I'd seen her hide her phone so many times I lost count. The anger kept building up inside me, and I started to question whether I even knew what kind of person she really was. I decided I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. I needed to get proof. So I set up a little hidden camera in the living room, nothing fancy, just enough to catch her if she slipped again. It was a gamble, but I was desperate. The next few days were a nightmare. She was her usual bitchy self, but I kept my composure, watching her every move, waiting for her to slip up. And slip up she did. One evening, I overheard her whispering on the phone, laughing in that sneering way she does, talking about how she needs to see Ryan again, how she's not done with him yet. That was the moment I knew I had all the evidence I needed. I also found her phone records, hours of messages between her and Ryan, explicit texts, flirtatious talk, and even some photos she'd sent him. She was in deep. It was no longer an affair I suspected. It was an affair I knew was happening right under my nose. I felt a mix of rage, heartbreak, and pure disgust. I wanted to confront her immediately, but I knew I had to be strategic. I couldn't just explode and make everything worse. I waited until she came home from work. I was sitting in the living room, my phone on the table, already loaded with all the evidence I'd collected. When she walked in, I looked her straight in the eyes. Her face was smug, that bitchy smirk still plastered on her face. I said, "Emily, I know everything." Her smile froze for a second, then she tried to act innocent, like I was crazy, like I was imagining things, but I was. I pulled out my phone, played the screenshots, the call logs, the messages. She went pale. Her mouth went dry and she started stammering. Her first reaction was denial. She told me I was crazy, that Ryan was just a friend, that I was paranoid and jealous. She said all those things with that slick, bitchy tone she always uses when she's lying her face off. But I wasn't buying it. I told her I had proof that she'd been cheating on me for months, maybe longer. That's when she snapped. She got really defensive, started crying, throwing around accusations that I was insecure, that I was overreacting, that I'd ruined everything. Her voice was shrill, trying to paint me as the villain, trying to make me feel guilty for catching her. I felt everything boil over inside. My chest was tight, my hands trembling. I wanted to punch her, scream at her, make her see how much she'd hurt me. But I stood there, silent, staring at her with pure anger. I told her she's a lying, manipulative bitch, that she's been screwing Ryan behind my back all these years, and that I'm done. I told her I'd never forgive her, that I don't want her anymore, and that she can take her lies and her cheating and get the hell out. Her reaction was infuriating. She just kept crying and saying she was sorry, trying to manipulate me into feeling guilty. She kept insisting that I was the one to blame, that I never paid enough attention to her, that Ryan was just helping her with some emotional stuff. She called me insecure, accused me of being a terrible husband. But I knew better. I knew she's a lying, cheating bitch who thought she could get away with it. That night I told her she needed to leave. I couldn't stand to look at her anymore. She packed a bag, calling me every name in the book, crying, begging, trying to guilt me into taking her back. But I was done. I didn't want to hear her lies. I watched her walk out the door, feeling a strange mixture of relief and heartbreak. I'd lost my wife, my best friend, the trust I thought we had. And somehow, I knew this was just the beginning of something much darker. Since then, I've been trying to piece everything together: how I got here, what I could have done differently, and what I'm supposed to do now. Honestly, I feel like I've been punched in the gut. I trusted her for so long, and she turned out to be nothing but a manipulative, cheating bitch. I want to move on, but I can't shake this feeling that I was just a fool, and that I let her destroy what little was left of my dignity. After Emily left, I was left sitting alone in the silence of my house, feeling like I'd just been hit by a truck. The worst part was that I kept replaying everything in my head: every little sign I missed, every moment I ignored, every time I told myself she was just stressed or tired. The betrayal ran so deep, I couldn't even look at our wedding photos without feeling a mixture of disgust and sadness. I never thought I'd be the guy whose wife cheated on him with his best friend. Especially not during our daughter's birthday party. That day, I had been so proud of the life we built: family, stability, trust. Now it all felt like a lie. I don't even know how I managed to get through the next few days. I was a mess: anger, heartbreak, confusion, ripping through me like a storm. Everyone kept telling me to move on, to forget about her, but that was easier said than done. I kept seeing her face in my head, that bitchy smirk, the fake tears she threw on to manipulate me. I started wondering if I ever really knew her. Maybe I was just blind all these years. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. How could she do this? How could she lie so easily? Did she ever love me? Did she ever care? I decided I needed to get some space. I moved some of my stuff into the guest room just to get away from her. I spent hours in my garage, sitting alone, trying to process what had happened. I was spiraling. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. I even started questioning my own worth. Was I just a fool for trusting her? Did I miss the signs? Was I ever enough for her? The feelings of betrayal turned into a deep, gnawing sense of inadequacy. It was like I'd been hit so hard I didn't even know who I was anymore. One night I got drunk. I needed some kind of relief, something to numb the pain. I sat there, staring at the wall, thinking about Ryan and Emily, how they thought they could get away with this. I remembered how Ryan used to call me bro, how we'd always been tight. That was a lie. I felt so stupid for not seeing how fake everything was. I mean, I always knew Ryan could be a little shady, but I never thought he'd stoop this low. And Emily, she was just a manipulative, bitchy liar. I kept telling myself I should get revenge, but I didn't know how. That's when it hit me. If Emily thought she could walk all over me and get away with it, then she was dead wrong. I wasn't about to let her win. I decided I'd make her regret it in my own way. I needed her to feel the pain she caused me, to see that her lies and cheating meant something. I started planning how I'd get back at her, not in some childish way, but enough to make her realize I wasn't a fool. I wanted her to feel the same crushing betrayal I felt. I didn't have a clear plan yet, but I knew I had to do something. I started digging through her social media, her messages, her emails. I wanted to find out if there was anything I'd missed, anything I could use. Turns out, she was even more careless than I thought. She'd been texting Ryan right up until the day she left, even after I confronted her. There were photos, flirtatious comments. I found a lot of stuff I hadn't seen before, stuff that made my blood boil all over again. The thing that got me the most was how she lied so easily, trying to cover her tracks. She's a master manipulator, that one. And Ryan, he'd always been my guy, my friend. I never thought he'd turn into this lying, cheating bastard either. I knew I needed to be smart about this. Confronting her again right now would only make things worse. Instead, I decided to gather more evidence, keep my head clear, and plan my next move meticulously. I wanted her to know that I wasn't going to be some pushover just because she was a bitchy, manipulative wife. She thought she could cheat and lie and walk all over me. Well, she was about to find out what real consequences felt like. I wasn't going to let her get away with this, not without paying a price. Now I sit here, trying to piece together what I'll do next. I feel this mixture of rage and heartbreak that's almost unbearable. I keep asking myself if I should fight for the marriage or just cut her out completely. Part of me wants to burn everything down so she can see what she lost, But deep down, I know that's not easy, that revenge isn't so simple. Still, I can't just let her walk away from this pretending she's innocent. She played me, Ryan played me, and I've got so much pain I don't even know what to do with it. All I know is I'll never trust her again, and that I need to figure out how to move forward, whatever that looks like. The days that followed were an endless blur of anger, sadness, and a kind of numbness I've never experienced before. I spent most of my time in my garage, locking myself away, trying to think through my next steps without losing my mind. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Emily's sneering face, that fake smile she wore during the party, and I heard Ryan's voice, that familiar tone now twisted with lies. It was like a constant loop that wouldn't stop. I knew I had to do something, but I didn't want to act impulsively. I needed a plan, something calculated, something that would hit her where it hurts without making me look like the crazy ex-husband. One thing I couldn't ignore was how she still tried to act like everything was normal. She came home, acted like she was the victim, crying and saying she was sorry, but I could see through that bullshit now. She thought she could manipulate me into feeling guilty, just like she'd done so many times before. That's what made me furious. She was so good at lying, so good at pretending to be the victim, but I knew the truth. I knew she'd been sneaking around, lying, cheating. That little bitch had been trying to cover her tracks, but I had all the evidence. I started talking to some of her friends, people who saw her behavior firsthand or knew about her sneaky messages. They confirmed what I already suspected. Emily had been acting different for months, more distant, more bitchy, more secretive. Some of her friends even told me she'd been acting like a total bitch to them, all because she was cheating and hiding it. More I heard, the angrier I got, especially knowing she'd been lying to everyone, acting innocent while she was screwing around behind my back. I also reached out to Ryan. I needed to hear his side of the story, how long he'd been doing this, what he thought he was getting out of it. Turns out Ryan was just as much of a piece of shit as Emily. He admitted they'd been texting for months, that he'd been hooking up with her whenever he could. He said she was hot, and that she was better in bed than I ever was. That was the moment I saw red. This wasn't just some fling. These two had been actively plotting to screw me over. For a long time. Ryan even said he was sorry, but he wasn't, not really. He was just another asshole who thought he could get away with it. With everything piling up, I decided I was done waiting. I needed to strike back, to make her feel what she made me feel, betrayed, humiliated, worthless. I started talking to a divorce lawyer. I knew I couldn't stay married to someone like Emily, not after what she did. But I also wanted her to pay for this. I was angry enough to do something reckless, but I knew I had to be smart. I wanted her to see that she couldn't cheat and lie without consequences. So I devised a plan. I wasn't going to just confront her again. I wanted to show her that I wasn't some fool to be played. I decided to tell her I was filing for divorce. I wanted her to realize she'd lost everything: her marriage, her family, her reputation. I kept detailed records of everything I'd uncovered, screenshots, messages, everything. I wanted her to see I was serious. I also secretly contacted a private investigator to get more proof, things I couldn't see or hear on my own. I wanted every piece of her dirty laundry, every lie, every sneaky message. The night I finally told her I was serious about leaving, her reaction was classic Emily. More tears, more fake remorse, more manipulative guilt trips. She begged me not to do it, cried about how she was sorry, and how she still loved me. But I didn't buy a word of it anymore. I told her she was a lying, cheating bitch, that she'd destroyed everything we had, and that I'd make sure she paid for it. I told her I'd take everything, our house, the kids, everything, if that's what it took. I wanted her to understand that she couldn't just cheat and walk away like it was nothing. As I sit here now, reflecting on everything, I realize how much I've changed in just a few weeks. I used to be the kind of guy who'd turn the other cheek, who'd try to fix everything. Now I see that some betrayals are too deep, some lies too heavy. I've come to the conclusion that I can't rebuild what she tore apart. I'm not the same person anymore. I feel more hardened, more cautious, but I also feel relieved. I don't have to pretend anymore, don't have to keep hiding my pain. I'm going to get through this somehow. I have to. The process of moving out and tying up loose ends was almost as exhausting as the betrayal itself. I contacted the lawyer, filed for divorce, and made arrangements to leave the house. Emily's tears and apologies during that time were almost laughable. She played the victim, acting like I was the one ruining everything, but I knew better. She was the one who'd ruined everything. I'd never seen her so desperate, so manipulative. She begged me to reconsider, cried about how she made a mistake, and swore she'd change, but I wasn't buying it. I was done pretending she was innocent. In the days that followed, I started gathering everything I could to make her regret what she'd done. I had the evidence, screenshots, messages, the private investigator's report. I wanted her to see that I knew every lie, every sneaky text, every moment she betrayed me. I also started posting some of her messages on social media, anonymously, just enough for her friends and family to see the truth. I knew I was crossing a line, but at that point I didn't care. I wanted her to feel humiliated, to understand that her manipulations had consequences. Meanwhile, I focused on my kids. I didn't want them to see me broken, even though I was. I made sure they knew I loved them, that I'd always be there for them. It hurt to think about how Emily's actions would impact their life, but I also knew I had to be strong. I wanted to be a better father, someone they could look up to despite all the chaos. I told myself I'd get through this, that one day I'd wake up and realize I was better off without her. The hardest part was facing Emily after she moved out. She kept texting, begging me to take her back, promising she'd change, that she'd stop seeing Ryan, that she loved me and the kids. I blocked her number, deleted her from my life, and decided that her words didn't matter anymore. Her promises were just more lies. I had to focus on healing myself and rebuilding what I could of what she'd broken. Every time she called or messaged, I felt a mix of anger and disappointment. How could she be so manipulative, so fake? I saw through her now. She was a bitch, a liar, a user, and she'd played me for months. Despite everything, I was determined to move on. I started going to therapy, talking about what happened, trying to make sense of it all. There was a part of me that still couldn't believe how someone I loved and trusted so much could turn into this manipulative, cheating bitch. I kept replaying the moments, the fake smiles, the secret messages, Ryan's confession, and I realized I'd been blind for so long. It was like waking up from a nightmare. I also started to rebuild my confidence, to remind myself that I was worth more than someone who'd betray me that way. But the truth is, the pain still lingers. Every now and then I get hit with a wave of anger or sadness. I wonder if I'll ever truly get over it. I wonder if I'll ever trust again. But I also know I've learned something valuable. I deserve honesty, loyalty, and respect. And if someone doesn't give me that, I'd rather be alone than deal with the kind of betrayal I just went through. I want to tell anyone reading this, you can survive betrayal. You can come out the other side stronger, even if it feels impossible now. Just don't stay stuck in the pain. Get out, get help, and remember your worth. Now I'm focusing on rebuilding my life piece by piece. I've started dating again cautiously, and I'm trying to put the past behind me. It won't be easy, and I know I'll carry the scars of this for a long time. But I also know I'm stronger than I thought. Emily and Ryan can have their lies, their fake smiles. I don't want that anymore. I want real happiness, honesty, and a future where I can finally trust myself again. That's my goal now, moving forward, one step at a time. Looking back, I honestly never thought I'd be the guy who was betrayed like this. I used to pride myself on being steady, dependable, someone who could handle anything. Yet here I am, shattered and trying to piece my life back together after my wife Emily and my so-called best friend Ryan tore everything apart. The pain was almost unbearable at first. I felt like I'd been sucker punched, not just emotionally, but on every level, but somehow I found a way to keep going. That's what surprised me the most, how resilient I actually am even when I thought I was. Now I see things differently. I see the signs I missed, the red flags I ignored. I realize I should have trusted my instincts more, but I also learned that sometimes people are just good at hiding their true selves. Emily's bitchiness, her manipulative lies, they all made sense in the aftermath. I see how she played me, how she used her charm to keep me blind, while secretly plotting her escape with Ryan. That realization hurt, but it also gave me clarity. I finally understand that I deserve better, that I shouldn't settle for someone who manipulates and cheats behind my back. I've come to accept that some things can't be fixed, and that's okay. Not every betrayal is worth fighting for, especially when it's rooted in lies and deceit. I've chosen to cut my losses, to focus on healing and rebuilding my life without her. I see now that moving on is the only way to find peace, even if the scars of betrayal will stay with me for a while. I've started practicing self-care, going to therapy, reconnecting with friends who matter, and spending quality time with my kids. They're the reason I get up every morning, and they remind me of everything good left in this world. The lessons I've learned are harsh but necessary. Trust is fragile, and when it's broken, it takes a long time to repair. I've realized that honesty and loyalty are the true foundations of any relationship, and if they're not there, then it's better to walk away, no matter how hard that may be. I've also learned that revenge may seem tempting, but ultimately it's not worth it. The real victory is in moving forward and refusing to let the betrayal define me. I want to be better, stronger, more aware of who I am and what I deserve. Finally, I want anyone who's going through this to know one thing: you are not alone. Betrayal cuts deep, but it doesn't have to break you. You can survive it. You can come out the other side better and more resilient. Take your time to heal, don't rush the process, and remember that your worth isn't determined by someone else's lies or betrayal. One day, you'll find peace again, trust me. You just have to keep moving forward no matter how tough it gets. That's what I'm doing now, one step at a time.